Happy New Year! Welcome to 2026 and welcome back to another episode of Sustainability in the Sea. Hope you guys had a really amazing holiday break. I know I did. Personally, I was calling it winter break, even though I'm in my 30s. And it was a reset, it was rejuvenating. I did my goals, I did my vision board, and I just got really clear on how I want to show up in my work and in my life in 2026. And I just would encourage you to do that too, because it's been a practice that I really look forward to every year. So that being said, this is the first episode of season 6 of Sustainability in the Sea. You guys, 6 seasons. Where did the time go? I am so grateful. I was looking back on my vision boards and I saw that Sustainability in the Sea podcast, because just a little quick aside, when I was in graduate school, I started a blog called Sustainability in the Sea. And then I realized very quickly that 1, I'm in grad school, I need to focus on that. And 2, blogging is dying. And so I just took that little title that I loved and I put it in my back pocket. And when I started FutureSwell, which at the time was called something else, in 2021, I was like, I know I want to start a podcast. I know I want to call it Sustainability in the Sea. Okay, sorry, little angle change for my video viewers. Yeah, and then I found it on my vision board in 2021. I started this in 2021. Thank you for being here. If you're an early listener, please comment. I love you guys. Tell me what you want me to talk about, because I could yap forever, and I love having this as my long form outlet. One of my main goals for 2026, before we get into this episode, is to write more. So I do have a Substack. It's called, Carissa and Climate. There's only one post on there. I don't know how to promote it, but it's just an outlet for me as an ocean climate activist to process the reality of what we're in, the systems we're in, how to build solutions in them. And yeah, okay, Riley, keep it in. At least till we're done recording. But today, I'm really excited that our first episode of season 6 of Sustainability in the Sea is with a creator from FutureSwell's Ocean Creator Coalition. So Natalie Cibel is a wildlife conservationist. She's Jane Goodall of our generation is the only good way to describe that. And she works in Southern California as a consultant in wildlife conservation. So I know that I had a lot of you reach out with questions after my consulting episode last year. And I talked to her about how she builds her consultancy. She gets contracted for field work in the desert, doing desert conservation, doing population surveys. And her ultimate goal and her ultimate North Star and her mission is to fight extinction and create pathways to people for environmentalism. She also co-hosts a podcast called Planet People Pod, and we did a little episode swap. So I went and talked on their podcast. If you want to listen to that episode, they're great, her and Coral. We're going to have Coral on shortly as well. And yeah, I wanted to chat with someone who works not necessarily in the ocean echo chamber, but still in wildlife conservation, because it's so connected. And I've loved having her in the coalition because she's still an expert, but she's an expert in a different niche area. And marine biologists cannot only be working with other marine biologists. That is not how we break the echo chambers. So you're going to love this conversation, especially if you want to work for yourself, be a consultant, you feel pulled to media and storytelling and also pulled to conservation work in the field. She's a really great blueprint for that. And I put all of her links in the show notes if you want to connect with her on LinkedIn or on Instagram, or if you want to learn more about her work and listen to her podcast. So yeah, I'm so happy to be back together. I'm looking for episode ideas. Please put comments down below if you have something specific you want me to discuss. Otherwise, I'm just going to be yapping about deep sea mining. Just kidding. Last reminder is we only have till January 23rd to submit a comment against offshore drilling on the West Coast. We worked with Natalie actually to help raise the alarm in Southern California at people's hearings as one of our creators. And you probably saw that video on FutureSwell's accounts. But you can still submit a comment against offshore drilling if you want more background on the issue and what's going on and why the Trump administration is trying to expand a bunch of offshore drilling risks in our oceans. I have an episode on that you can go check out. And, we're out here. We didn't ask for it, but we're out here showing up. So please show up right now. It's an easy way to defend the ocean. We've made it really simple with a template. You just have to submit it and personalize it. So, Okay, love you. Welcome back to Sustainability and the Sea. Hi, Natalie. Welcome back to Sustainability in the Sea.
Hi,
Um,
Krista. Thanks for
where
having me.
I'm so happy to have you. Where are you tuning in from?
I'm tuning in from San Diego, California.
Oh, what part?
I live in La Jolla with my fiance. We've been here for about 5 years, so
Oh,
it's a
wow.
blessing. Yes.
One of my like early ocean experiences was with the seal and sea lion colony down in La Jolla.
Is that right?
Yeah, we would me and my
Wow.
dad would drive in and like you could just snorkel with them. I don't know if people still do that now or if it was dangerous at the time, but it was like, some of the closest wildlife experiences I had.
That's really funny, actually, that you bring up that exact experience because I had a very similar experience coming to California for the first time 6 years ago when I was just coming to scout out if I wanted to live in San Diego. And one of the first places I went was La Jolla Cove with the sea lions and the seals. And it was such a complex experience that still resonates with me because of the human conflict and human wildlife conflict that is ongoing still to this
Mhm.
day in that area. When you went for the first time, did you kind of experience that where people were coming too close to the animals and
Yeah, I was pretty young and I hate to say this, but I think it's just gotten a lot worse with social media. Because people know that they can like get a really close experience. I remember going back as a teenager and being like, why does that family have their kids so close? Like even knowing that, intuitively watching it. But and I think now they have signs, and I don't know if they have outreach or people on the ground there creating boundaries, but there are interactions, aren't there?
definitely still today there's a lot of issues and you're right, social media has a big role to play in just the dramatization of it all,
Hmm.
really, with the conflict and people bringing their families still and not, removing their children from being too close. And I think what makes it complicated is just the international, I guess, crowd that it brings in. It's hard to communicate to a diverse audience about a certain set of rules. And
Yeah.
there are rules in place and groups working to enforce them, kind of. Like I was sort
Mhm.
of in on that a few years back. Um, Again, it sparked a huge thing in me wanting to mitigate this issue when I first came to California, kind of like you.
Yeah.
It's funny. We have a lot of similarities.
Similar
And
routes. And
I,
then I haven't had experience with this
Mhm.
besides going snorkeling in the La Jolla Coves, but I've heard there's amazing free diving and snorkeling in La Jolla area. Do you and your partner go or friends?
Yeah, I don't personally free dive,
Yeah.
but Zach does like to go out spearfishing, and there's some really good snorkeling spots. You can definitely have those good interactions in the ocean with sea life as long as they are the ones to approach you, right? There are certain videos of seals like approaching people spear diving, and even Zach has had encounters with them, and it's like on their terms, right?
Yeah.
And that's just kind of reading nature, I think, and
Hmm.
understanding boundaries and not getting too close to them for the selfie or for touching them. Like it's literally illegal to touch these animals under the Marine Mammal Protection Act. It's just not enforced because there's not enough NOAA regulation for
Yeah.
obvious reasons, even more so today than there
Yeah.
was when I first moved here.
We have so much of that here in Hawaii too. I think there's just like it's an issue in conservation, but
Mhm.
thank you for coming on. For those of you that don't know, Natalie, she's a wildlife biologist, a conservationist, and we met each other on the internet. And now she's part of the FutureSwell Ocean Creator Coalition, and she also co-hosts her own podcast called the Planet People Pod. And we did a swap actually. So this is the other half of that swap. I went on their podcast. They're coming on mine, and ultimately. They're doing very similar things to what we're trying to accomplish at Sustainability in the Sea, but they're doing it for broader environmentalism, which is just to help build pathways, have in-depth conversations, recording them and sharing them with the world so that people can learn from their guests and their experiences. And their first season is all about ocean conservation. I actually thought you worked in ocean conservation for quite some time. And so we're going to talk about the ways that during this episode Natalie's upbringing, her career, and how she works now as a wildlife biologist full time as a consultant in Southern California, which I get a lot of questions about from the FutureSwell and Sustainability in the Sea community. So I think it'll be a good conversation.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you so much for that nice introduction. And I think you're right. Sustainability in the sea, Planet People, we're all just trying to share stories to inspire that local action, in your community for a global impact, really. And it's through my own experiences that we've developed Planet People podcast. Really, Planet People was formed out of my master's degree, which I finished in December. And the name of my master's degree is called From Sea to Shining Desert. And
Mhm.
so Planet People follows this story of when I did kind of work in ocean conservation, but mostly like terrestrial ecology with birds, with marine mammals in La Jolla. I've written an opinion piece about that. I've worked with nonprofits and the Coastal Commission in California, and then moved inland towards the desert. And so Planet People follows that story, and it's all of these people that I've met when I was working more locally in San Diego and now where I work more in Joshua Tree and in the desert. And it's through these stories and people that I've met that inspire me and inspired my whole career from the start. I have so many mentors to thank for that. And it's really the feelings that come from these stories that inspired that action. And
Mhm.
I wanted to keep sharing them. And I felt like being in the field as a wildlife biologist just wasn't enough. I was in this container. And after I finished my master's, I knew I had a niche role to play in communicating those messages. And so hopefully we can share more of those today and on the show for sure. And check out our
Yeah.
episode with Carissa.
Yeah, it's so nice to hear that you're like this was kind of like the Cliff Notes summary of my journey because I think people listening are in the middle of crafting their journeys and making decisions. And so take me back. So like where'd you grow up? What
Yeah,
was your upbringing like? Did you come from a family of people who were nature people or outdoors people?
that's a good question. I think when I look back on my childhood and where I grew up, I'll start there. I grew up in Washington, D.C., so the nation's capital. I was going to school in Georgetown. My family's business is in D.C., so very much grew up kind of as a city girl, taking the bus to school, and I loved that. I loved that city girl side of me, but then later in my life, well, I guess between 9 and 18, I'd gone to summer camp every summer, sleepaway camp in the Shenandoah Valley in Virginia called Camp Straterman. And I was there off the grid for 2 weeks every summer, living in a log cabin, riding horses, playing tennis, running around outside in meadows, going hiking, all of the things any child dreams of spending time outside right in the summer. And so I think that really shaped a lot of my connection to nature in a very natural way because I was just a part of the landscape there. We lived in log cabins that were made from wood on the land. We went to bathrooms in outhouses. There was a snake under the outhouse called Elvis. There were skunk families everywhere, like just little things like that. And I was never afraid of being close to those animals, except for spiders. But I've gotten over that fear
The
now.
exception.
The exception of being a slight arachnophobe as a child. And so that was a big part. And then I went on to study environmental science as my undergrad. And I think my time at the beach in the summer as a kid influenced wanting to do marine biology at first. And so maybe that's where you think that I have that ocean conservation beginning because it did start with that. But then I was like, chemistry is not going to work for me. So I went the EVS route, environmental science, for those listening in, and got my undergrad degree there at University of North Carolina, Wilmington. So it was a
Oh,
coastal school.
wait, we have to pause
Yes,
here.
we
Okay.
have to pause.
Okay. So first of all, I went to Wilmington for the first time this summer, and was I was like, this town
I know,
is
so cute.
so cute, beach, coastal, beautiful, amazing.
Hmm,
Also,
hmm.
crazy college experience. Me and my husband went to like dinner and then we were like walking around and we were like, oh, all the college kids are like raging at the bars. Like it seemed like such a quintessential college experience, plus a beach, which is beautiful. It reminded me of like other beach towns I've experienced around the
Hmm.
world, but I didn't realize until I was hanging out with some friends who were from the area how much conservation infrastructure for students exists in Wilmington. And so like, would you share a little bit about like what you felt like
Yeah.
the college offered you as someone who wanted to specialize in environmental science?
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad you paused there and asked that question. Wilmington was a huge part of just growing everything that I loved about nature, whether it was in an academic setting or outside learning in outdoor labs. And I think UNCW really provided me with mentors and good teachers that inspired me. Um, and the infrastructure of the program I really liked as well because I got a mix of heavy on environmental sciences, whether it was policy, food insecurity. Um, I took general biology classes, and
Yeah.
then I went on to do my biology minor too.
Yeah, that's amazing. And did you get to feel like you were having experiences with the ocean throughout undergrad?
Yes, I would say so. We would take really cool field trips, actually, just to Wrightsville Beach, even, and we would study coastal ecology from like barrier island ecology, understanding the different profiles of the beach in the winter and the summer, the importance of dune habitats and dune restoration for shorebird nesting, for stormwater resilience, hurricane resilience, and all of that. And so I really got a good understanding of what it meant to live sustainably at the coast and how to live with nature. And
Hmm.
our teachers, I had so many great teachers that instilled that in me.
Yeah. What made you choose UNC when you were just a senior in high school?
I wanted to be on the sailing team and I wanted to be by the coast. And that was mainly influenced by wanting to do marine biology
Right.
and live kind of by the water because I had spent some summers by the ocean in Bethany and Maryland shore. And so I was like, how can I get more of this lifestyle and study my dream degree, right?
Mhm.
And so I feel like I found a good balance doing EVS and marine biology or EVS and biology as my minor because I still got to dip my toes in doing like a marine mammals class. And we would take field trips to the beach when there was like a whale washed on shore.
Yeah.
So just living at the beach offered so much, like literally there was a coastal classroom and we would have labs outside all the time.
Hmm.
Hopefully that
I
answered your question.
No, it did. I feel, and I've talked about this on the show before, but I feel really grateful for I had a similar general undergrad degree. I focused in ecology and evolutionary biology, and I feel really grateful that my, in comparison, my partner did marine biology in undergrad. And so I think it gave me like a more holistic view of like looking at an environment from an ecosystem lens, and then to knowing that I was going to pursue like higher education to then specialize there. And I missed the ocean when I was studying it, and that I was in a landlocked place. So like it's awesome that you also had this coastal classroom accessible to you. But I feel like you just get you're getting the foundations in undergrad, and I think that it's nice to have that perspective now. And so did you know you were going to pursue graduate schooling, and how did you go about finding your program?
Sure. Yeah, I think I knew I wanted to go back. I just didn't know when. And so I graduated in 2018 and then I moved to California in 2020. So I wanted to get some experience on the ground first, doing whatever it was that I could to fight extinction. Was like my whole motto after finishing school and finishing my biology minor, which really pushed me into doing wildlife biology because I saw the risk that birds were facing, marine mammals. At the time, I was learning about the vaquita.
Yeah,
I know that story is close to your heart.
yeah.
And I like, oh my God, I could
Did you always want to move to
start crying about
California?
it. Like the poor vaquita, I feel so bad for.
I know. I can't. I'm just like I can't believe that was like my crash course in like marine bio or ocean conservation, really. I was like, "Oh, this is really this is it. This is
This
what."
is happening.
Yeah. And
Extinction is happening right before our eyes.
in the same year that I was learning about that issue, we were like assigned to read The Sixth Extinction by Elizabeth Colbert, which is a phenomenal book. I can recommend it to listeners, but I also know that like I read it because it was assigned to me, but it was so like it really underscored just the severity of the extinction crisis in the Anthropocene. And like I just didn't I was the same way as you, where I was just like destroyed at understanding the biodiversity crisis at the scale it was actually at, like actually understand the details of it and feeling like I just wanted to fight extinction too.
Yep. And it's not even the natural like scientist in me, right? And I would say to
No.
people tuning in that you might not feel called to as a scientist. It's just what you had to study to be able to be on the forefront of fighting extinction.
Hmm.
But it's something deeper than your ability to be a scientist. It's like you really care so much that there's like mass extinction happening right before our eyes. I mean, the vaquita was like, I was told there were like 8 left in the wild.
Yeah.
And you hear that as a student when you're 20, and that's impressionable.
Yeah.
That sticks with you, and it still does. And so when I finished my bio minor, I was like, yeah, maybe like where can I do field work? And so I was looking at the San Diego Zoo, and they had a bunch of cool job openings, working with shorebirds that I had experience with banding. So in between finishing EVS and my bio minor, I was doing a lot of volunteering as a bird bander in the state of North Carolina with the Audubon Society, with the North Carolina Wildlife Commission, and that was my passion when I first got into wildlife work. And to anyone listening, I will say that if you are interested in being a wildlife biologist, I always start with gate bird watching is the gateway to the wildlife world
Yeah.
because they're plentiful, they're difficult to study, they're numerous. Like, you don't have to, you can
It's
study
too
birds
hard.
in any state. You can
Yeah.
study birds in any state. You can't study sea lions in any state. I mean, California is the only place I know where you can actively
Yeah.
do that kind of research in America. And so it was the ticket for getting me out west. And it's still the ticket to getting me work today because of the nesting bird season laws in California, which are from April 15th to September 15th. So if you're interested in being a consultant, and we can get to that, birding is a great way to get started because there will always be a need for monitoring birds during the spring and summer months. And so not only are they diverse and plentiful to study, like they will get you a job.
Oh, that's really important for those listening. If anybody hearing that is like, oh my gosh, like I am struggling to get a job, this seems like a good pathway. Are you comfortable with them like reaching out to you?
Oh my gosh, of course. Please definitely list all of my socials, my
Okay.
email, and my LinkedIn is a pretty good place to connect with me about like actual consulting work, just because I kind of like to keep professional things on that
Yeah.
platform. Honestly, I'm not the best with emailing because I'm just in the field all the time. And
Yeah.
so like a quick DM is like better for me than a formal email.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'll put her contact information in the show notes for those who want to connect further. But so wait, why did you always want to go out west or like were you just like was it the bird
Mhm.
work
Yeah,
opportunity?
that's a good question too. Yeah, I think moving out west wasn't always a dream for me until the very end of college. And I thought I would stay in Wilmington, North Carolina for the rest of my life. I loved it there. Like you said you went for the first time. It's the most charming place. Like it's a great coastal college town. But
Yeah.
I just was struggling to find opportunities. That's kind of how it is in the Southeast. I feel like not that Wilmington becomes a ghost town in the winter, but it's hard to find a full-time job
Yeah.
as a scientist there. There are conservation structures in place, and there's some really cool like marine biology opportunities, I would say more than terrestrial ecology. And I just found more opportunities in California, and I literally just started looking on Texas A&M Wildlife Job Board, which
Mhm.
is a fabulous resource for people starting out in the conservation space. It's super helpful. And Zach actually is part of the reason I even considered looking at San Diego Zoo jobs because we started dating at the end of college and he wanted to move to California and he inspired me. He's
Mm.
inspired a lot in my life, so that's why I like to name drop him. But it just happened. Now I've been here for 5 years and working for the San Diego Zoo is another thing we can talk about. But so much has unfolded since then and it's
Yeah.
kind of fun. So,
And you did graduate school while in Southern California.
yes.
Yeah. And it sounds like that was during COVID times. So were you doing that online? What was your program like?
Yeah, so I started my grad program summer of 2022 with Miami, Ohio University, and the graduate program through them is called they have two different types, and I chose the Advanced Inquiry Project Dragonfly program. So it's fully online, except, well, I'll take that back. It's let's say 75% online and 25% in person. And since the university is Miami, Ohio University, and I'm not in Ohio, they offer the in-person days at a zoo institution near you. So the San Diego Zoo is actually like my campus.
Oh, so okay, that was like your project.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow.
Well, it wasn't necessarily my project. It was actually like where I would go to meet my cohort and we would have in-person school days there.
Oh,
Mhm.
were there a lot of people from San Diego in your program?
Yes, mainly because people who choose this program want to be a part of like a zoological institution.
Oh,
And
okay.
so sometimes zookeepers join the program that already work for the zoo, or educators. A lot of educators join the program and go back into doing communications work.
Yeah. Would you recommend, like in hindsight, folks consider that like graduate schooling as part of their path?
I think so. I think, especially in the science spaces, it's always good to have higher education, but I wouldn't supplement that or replace it with not getting real world experience.
Yeah, I agree. I felt like it was more of a formality that helps build authority, but that all my actual skill building was outside of my graduate program.
Definitely. How long until you went back to grad school between undergrad and
I went straight in.
oh, you went straight in. Okay.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
don't know if I would recommend that, but I
Yeah.
recognize that it's also really difficult to go back. I knew I probably wasn't going to go back if I had a break because I was probably going to go travel and like never get it. Like it was just there was a decision that I made to be like just take the
Just do
moment
it.
and go through it. Um,
Just do it. Yeah.
yeah. So, okay, so you finished your graduate program and now would you say that you're working as a wildlife biologist in San Diego? And did you have what was your first job out of graduate school?
Yeah. So while I was in grad school, I still continued to pretty much work full time. And 2022 was a big summer for me because I decided I didn't want to work for the San Diego Zoo. I didn't want to work for the government. I didn't think that hands-on research with these animals and acquiring publications for them was fighting the fight that I thought I could fight in terms of fighting extinction.
Yeah.
So that being said, I went back to school that summer and I also started my business as a consultant that summer. And
How did you know to do that? Like, were you like, I'm done, like, I want to be a contractor, I want to be freelance?
yeah, I'm not going to say that's a good question. So I met people earlier in my career after working for the San Diego Zoo. I went into consulting and I met people right off the bat that told me you should start an LLC, get this kind of experience, and you'll be able to get paid this much.
Okay.
And so it's this butterfly effect of meeting people that really influenced my decision to start a consulting business as a freelancer.
Mhm.
And it's all through word of mouth. All my clients are through word of mouth. I make my own schedule. I do my own outreach. So I was doing that full time while also being in school.
Yeah.
And so to answer your question about, what was the first job I did after my master's? Well, I'm still working for myself as a consultant and just building my clientele.
Wow, that's amazing. You should be really proud of yourself.
Thanks. It's
It's
been
really
a lot.
hard to do that.
Yeah, it is.
But I try to tell people like yeah, like li listen and find mentors. And it seems like that was your story as well of, I didn't know this was an option until someone told me it was an option. And I didn't have that. And I feel like because of that, I was flailing for so long. But my dad started a business when we were like, I watched my dad build his business throughout growing up. And even though it wasn't like a consulting firm, it was something else, it was still, I felt like I had seen like the habits that go into it at least. Like, oh, you have to go do the outreach, you have to go make relationships and network and ask and maybe take less at first or something like that to build the relationships. And yeah, now what would you say your day-to-day looks like?
I love that little story about your dad as a side note. My dad also owns businesses and so does my mom. So I think there's something to be said again about you and I having parallels in common here,
Yeah.
just about how we got on our entrepreneurship path, really, because that's what it is. It's entrepreneurship and it's not wanting to work for anybody else. Um, so my day to day now, I would say since I'm done with school, not online as much, which is nice because you hit the nail on the head. I did start online school during kind of the middle of the pandemic and everything. It was 2022, but we were still wearing masks on campus and,
Yeah.
you know, social distancing or whatever. And so I really wanted finishing postgrad my day to day. to look a little bit more in person. And so I still do a lot of field work on the regular. Most of the time I'm busy April through like October.
Mhm.
And those days look different every week, every day, depending on the project. But usually I'm up really early, like sometimes 4 a.m. And now I'm doing more desert work. So I was kind of doing a lot of coastal work in the beginning of my time in California. And I've since migrated inland to work with reptiles like the California state reptile, which is the California desert tortoise. And they are a species of critical concern. And we're actually just uplisted under the California Endangered Species Act as endangered. And
Mm.
they had a threatened status in 1990, and now it's endangered. So lots of updates with desert conservation news, and I'm kind of in the middle of it. But early mornings, 6 a.m. start time every day, and sometimes it's 12 hours a day, sometimes it's 14. It can be really long, grueling days, but it's usually for like 3 weeks at a time, 1 week off kind of thing.
Okay.
And so when I'm going on site, I'm doing a quick, you know, jotting down the time, the weather, any species that I see, whether it's birds, snakes, reptiles, I always keep my journal with me. And then I have to submit a report at the end of the day. So all of those notes help me. And in between that, if I have time, I'm posting on social media, working on my podcast, doing everything pretty remotely from my car, which is like my lifeline out there since it's kind of like my office. But
So are you contracted to do population assessments?
yes, that's probably a good synopsis. I don't know if I explained that well of what my like actual project is, but usually it's like a presence absence survey to see if
Okay.
there's an animal basically around. It's like surveys in the morning, which is looking for birds, looking for reptiles, snakes, identifying plants that these species might be drawn to, like you know, the desert globe mallow, desert tortoise's favorite plant. If I see that around, I flag it off. There's also certain plant species. All cactus are protected. You have to flag those off. So in the morning when I get to the job site, that's the first thing I'm doing is looking for species of special concern, writing them down, reporting anything I see.
Okay. And then compared to the work you were doing near the coast, the coastal ecology work, was that also like identifying species and trying to figure out if like the plants or the animals you were seeing were native or abundant?
Yeah. When I was doing coastal work with the San Diego Zoo, and I have some clients that I do coastal work with as a contractor, but when I was doing more heavy research, I was identifying invasive plants that were bad for dune habitats and deterred nesting of endangered California least terns. So identifying invasive plants and then the endangered birds or any predatory birds along the coast. So that can range from peregrine falcons, red-tailed hawks, and didn't have to worry too much about actual like sea lions or marine mammals on the beach there, like harming birds, so to speak. I'm trying to tie this back to the ocean a little bit. But least terns are really cool seabirds, and they
Yeah.
are in grave threat. And I can talk about how the climate change and the ocean acidification is actually really impacting these birds, if
Oh, really?
that interests you. Yeah.
Oh, the ocean acidification is tied to the birds.
Mhm.
Was it because of what they eat?
Yes.
Hmm.
Yes.
That,
So
that's
they eat
crazy.
these small fish, and I don't know if you want me to pause there and explain it, but I can let you lead
Yes,
that.
no, please do.
Okay. Yeah. So this is actually fascinating to me. It's called the fish prey availability hypothesis. And so California least terns are critically endangered because they have less prey available to feed their young.
Mhm.
And the hypothesis behind this is that the f smaller fish species, so not sardines, like even smaller than sardines, are retreating to further away from the coast to cooler parts of the ocean because temperatures along the coast are too hot.
Mhm.
And so when that happens, during nesting season, the adult least terns are off of the nest for much longer, foraging further out in the sea, farther from the coast to look for the right size fish,
Mm. Yeah,
just to feed their young.
they have to expend more energy to survive, so it just adds up over time. Yeah, thank you for explaining that. I think what I'm hearing too is like whether you're working on the coastline or you're working in Joshua Tree National Park, you are using the same skills And those skills can transfer to any of the clients that you work with to help support species recovery or species population understanding. And so, how did you get those original skills?
I would tie it back to my experience at UNCW and just
Yeah,
having that foundational structure of literally going outside with my ornithology class, and we had a, a birding lab on campus every Thursday where we would go outside and literally just use binoculars. Like, if there's one tool I recommend using, it's
a
binoculars.
good pair of binoculars.
Yes, that's where my skill set began, was just observing birds on campus. And I would say volunteering with the Audubon Society um, was a huge stepping stone for me
Hmm.
to get me those skills. Yeah,
Yeah, and it's so funny how we all end up different places, but the path isn't that different because it's just like, oh, it's relationships. Oh, it's the volunteer experiences you got early. Oh, it's like the saying yes to things that maybe aren't perfect, but you like are like help build skills that help you later on. And it's, yeah, listening to your intuition, knowing that you want to do these things. And so I guess like now, would you say you see like the next 5, 10, 15 years of your career working as like a wildlife conservation biologist?
definitely. And you go back to this, the idea of having these lots of different skills that aren't even related to being a scientist, trusting your intuition, following your dreams, like knowing your strengths. I
Yeah.
would say that was the biggest thing for me because, like I said, sometimes being a scientist and detail oriented doesn't come natural to people, but their intuition is that they want to help. And I think it's natural if you care about the planet to want to help it in any way you can. So it's identifying the skills innate in you within your personality and applying that to whatever issue or animal that you want to work with. And
Hmm.
so for me, that's communication and writing. So I talk about birding in my with my bird lab, writing every day, journal. Like that's not a skill that a scientist will tell you, but it's something that you do on the job.
Yeah.
It's having a journal and a pen with you and binoculars. Like be old school.
Hmm.
Use things that aren't involved with your phone. That's
Yeah.
not to say technology can't help you. And if we're talking about tools here, there's some great apps that you can use to help you become a better birder and to get that hands-on experience. Merlin Bird app you can use to identify bird by sound. You can upload a picture of birds, eBird, iNaturalist. It's all of these things to just get you started so you have an understanding of the world around you. And
Yeah.
once you have that understanding of the world around you, then you can understand what's internal to you
Mhm.
that can be used to make a difference.
Yeah, I shared, I actually it was a a recent episode, but I gave like a presentation to a group of young people, and then I ended up just like sharing the presentation on a sustainability episode. And it was like 15 lessons that I've learned in the movement. And one of them was like the deeper that you understand yourself, the more you can like show up in the move in for what you want to do within the ocean climate movement. And I think that it's kind of a I don't want to reduce it down to like a a binary of being like a feminine thought, but I think that like ultimately it's that we don't I don't see these things as separate, like your personal relationship with nature and then how you show up within work, because I do think whenever I like invest in self-work or invest in the stuff that helps like recharge me, I end up like showing up way better and like w way more effective. And I don't see them as like separate or discrete in the same way that like I don't know if that's like our field or if it's like our perspective or if it's like an individual perspective, but I think it's a offering that may help people.
I think we share that perspective, and that's why I found you.
Yeah. Yeah. This
We
is
share that
just like
perspective.
the internet is the craziest place ever. So yeah, okay, tell me a little bit about that. Tell me how you decided to use content creation in service of your mission and what that process has been like. And if anyone listening wants to do it, what tips, tricks, advice you have for them.
I love sharing my story. And so content creation came naturally to me because I'm an extrovert and I knew that I had a skill that wasn't being utilized as a field worker. Like I'm sometimes alone all day long, searching for desert tortoises or doing nesting bird surveys. And I have learned to like that time because I've understood my connection to nature better. And so I understand myself better. And through that experience, I understood, okay, my personality is I like people.
Yeah.
I like to communicate what it is that I'm doing. And social media is the perfect outlet for that, right? It's social media for a reason. And I genuinely just thought my life was cool as fuck.
Yeah.
I thought all of my journeys along the coast, in the desert, working with burrowing owls, peregrine falcons, desert tortoises. I've handled so many snakes. Like, I just think that's awesome. I think it's cool. I think wildlife biology is like, it's dreamy, I guess, right? But it's more than that. It's like, this is just being outside and our connection to nature. And I felt compelled to share that. So I just started putting stuff out there. It
Mhm.
was never perfect. It's still not. I have typos. I have
Girl, same.
things I have to take down. I wouldn't even call myself a very good content creator. I just, that's the thing. You just have to start and then you can refine your skills.
Yeah.
And so I just started sharing stuff on my stories and then I started making reels right when reels kind of became a thing. I was like, oh, people actually kind of like this and it's my own unique twist on it. It doesn't have to be a trend. It could be an audio that resonates with you, an animal that resonates with you. And then you start to narrate the reels because you have a story you want to share. And so when you see your life as a story and every moment as like a cool page in that chapter, it's like, of course I want to share this. This is important. People need to know about what we're doing on the ground as biologists. Like, I couldn't believe it. I was like, why is no one talking about this stuff?
Yeah.
Why is no one talking about extinction? Why is no one talking about birds? And of course that's changed in the last 5 years greatly. There's a huge trend of people bird watching since the pandemic and all that. But when I was getting into it, I was like, why is no one talking about this?
That's how
I'm
I
going to
ended up
talk.
too. I was
You and
like,
I
why
both.
is no one talking about the ocean on, it was at TikTok at the time. And I was like, whoa, it's because there's like five people on this app, but like, and like everyone was dancing. And I was like, no one's talking about ocean conservation. And I think that ultimately it's about, like, I feel so grateful that I have some of that stuff documented because I think working to create like conservation content is something that I feel like I do for others more so than me, and I wouldn't have be doing it. And I feel like now I can look back and be like, oh yeah, I went on that trip and this was like an amazing memory from it. So it's almost like it's like a visual journal. And especially as like people who work with nature, then you have this visual journal of the places you've been and the animals you've seen and the stories of your work days that were memorable. And that's like in itself valuable for your life.
It's so nice. It's my visual diary. At first, yeah, I was doing it a lot to share the mission of what I was doing with my page and now what we're doing with Planet People. But now I'm just like, this is my diary. It doesn't make sense to half the people on here, but it makes sense to me.
Yeah, exactly.
If it
So,
makes sense to you and you believe in it, that's just the beginning. If you
mhm.
can believe in it and just the possibility of what your page could be, your story could be, you start to open your eyes to like the community building aspect of it. And that's what Planet People became for me. I was like, my platform's not enough anymore.
Yeah.
It needs to be something to bridge people to the planet. You
Yeah,
need to
that was
see
my
everything.
vision with the Creator Coalition was I was like, we should just be having like one face. Like this is, or like we have to have like a group of us, like working towards this. And I think that's what we're all doing. We're building these little communities online or in real life around like the same shared values that we all have.
And
Um,
FutureSwell inspired me a lot when I first started Planet
really?
People. Yes, it still
Oh, that
does.
means so
I
much.
like check out your website. I'm like, this is so organized. She has all of her values, like the pillars of her mission make so much sense. And I feel like it's a guiding light for what I want Planet People to be one day. I
Oh
mean,
my God. I'm
yeah,
excited.
it's
I
true. Planet
like
People is just an umbrella for the for what else everything could be. The
everything
podcast
could
is
be.
beneath it. And I'm like, FutureSwell is that umbrella. And you have all these cool things underneath it, the newsletter, the podcast, everything that you do. I'm like, yes.
I feel like also when you're working online or you're building online communities, which is just straight up how things go these days, it can be easy to feel like you're shouting into the void. And so for those listening that like maybe are like, who am I reaching with this? You're reaching people. You are reaching people, and you might not know it till later, but like you are until like conversations like this. And then you're like, oh, right, that wasn't posted to like a black hole. Like people saw that.
That's
And
a good point.
yeah. And so, um, looking back on your journey and also like what you do now and what's ahead for you, what are some like really, maybe like one or two really important pieces of advice that you wish you knew earlier for those that might have a similar dreams as to work what you're doing now?
If I could give two pieces, if I could give two pieces of advice, it's to sit in the front of the classroom and get to know your professor.
Yeah.
That was a game changer. I was so excited. I loved school, first of all, so that made it easy for me to be excited. But sitting in front of the classroom, getting to know your teacher, going to their office hours, and letting them kind of guide you. Like go in like wide-eyed, like with questions and curiosity. That's really what it is. It's the curiosity of like, what would it be like if I went into the research that my professor is now sharing about in class? And at the time, my professor was sharing about his research in Antarctica studying penguins.
Oh,
Shout out
great.
Dr. Steve Emsley. He's still my mentor today.
Oh,
So it's just fun. It's fun getting to know your professors. Like conservation doesn't have to be so serious. It can be fun getting to know your professors and your dreams and being curious and kind of moving in a lighthearted way, not like the world is ending from climate change, which it feels like it is. But when you go into it with a lighter mindset, I think you can let your dreams kind of flourish a little bit more, not be
yeah.
bogged down by like the doomsday.
Yeah, like the things that are out of your control. And yeah, that's really great advice. I think finding a mentor is really important. It's something we've talked about a lot on this show. Did you ask him or did it organically continue after college?
It just organically continued.
Yeah,
I
that's
didn't even know that he was my mentor until I realized that I we were just emailing a lot and the relationship just started forming and it never went away. We still talk.
yeah, that's amazing. Um, okay, and then we finish every episode with the same question for all of our guests. It's it's kind of it might take a minute, so take your time to think of your answer, but it's basically if you could put something on a billboard that all the most powerful people in the world could see or have to look at, what would your billboard say?
That's a good question, but that is a good question.
And I was thinking you were going to say an extinction because of what you said earlier.
Oh yeah, end extinction.
It's hard to know.
I'm trying to think of something like, I don't know, a quote, but I don't have any of my own quotes. I just like other people's quotes, but
But it's like they have to watch it. It's a difficult question, I think, for our guests because it really is like all the audience is the most powerful people. So like they have to hear it. And that just comes with a lot of responsibility. So I think it can be difficult for people to choose what their message would be, but it's just an exercise.
it's just an exercise, you're right. It
It's
doesn't have
just an
to be so
exercise.
serious.
Unfortunately, I don't think the fossil fuel corporations are listening to Sustainability in the
No,
Sea,
probably
but
not.
their kids might be. So we're hoping one day.
I think I like end extinction.
End
That
extinction.
would look so good on a billboard.
Yeah, it
Just
would.
like to the point, done.
I think of course you've probably watched Racing Extinction, but they did like an activation when they released their documentary and they put like they projected, I don't know, tell me if you've heard of this or not. They were in New York City and they projected all of the critically endangered species on the side of skyscrapers and it resonated with a ton of people and people were like, "What is that?" And then it like had people watch the movie and it's just such a powerful story for those listening that want to learn more about the extinction crisis and what to do about it because it opened up my eyes to like some of the things that contribute to it, like the illegal wildlife trade, like habitat loss and all this stuff. So everyone go maybe watch that movie.
Racing extinction is definitely a good one to tune into.
So good. And then where can people find you? I know you shared your Instagram. I know we have like the Planet People Pod. We have you're sharing on LinkedIn now. Is there anywhere else you want to connect people to?
I think, yeah, my socials. So I'm at naturalist Jane. Well, I should say at nat underscore. it's kind of confusing. I think I need to change my handle because whenever people ask me about it, I'm like, it's Naturalist Jane because you can call me Nat because I'm Natalie, but my middle name is Jane.
Oh,
So that's why I was included Jane in my handle, but you can link it in the show notes. I'm sure people will be able to find me there. So at Naturalist Jane on Insta and then Natalie Cibel on LinkedIn. My email is just my full name at gmail.com. Super simple. And yeah, I'm trying to think. I'm on TikTok under the same Insta name, which TikTok has been a good platform for me lately. So catch me on there.
awesome. Thank you so much for coming on Sustainability in the Sea.
Thank you so much for having me. This was such a fun convo.